Okay, so right angle pose. This is another way to create space, lengthen, decompress your spine. It's a gentle overall stretch, way to relax the muscles. There's a lot of things happening here. So it's not a stretch in the way that most people think of stretching, where you're taking something and trying to stretch it out. It's almost like you're taking pressure off the joints so that the muscles around the spine start to relax a little bit. So just like with some of the other videos I've posted, I'm always talking about kind of elongating, decompressing, making space. Because when you're in pain, your muscles are already in the mode to protect and guard and keep you from moving. So if you fight that too much, it backfires and you end up getting tighter. So for this pose, activity, stretch, position, you need either a desktop or a countertop or a windowsill. The height can vary. It will change the way it feels on your body. So if you're super tight in the hamstrings and in the back, you'll like something a little higher. So come up to your counter or desktop, place your palms flat on top, relax the shoulders away from the ears, and start to step your feet back. So you're looking for this feeling of having your feet underneath your hips. Breathe and then lengthen. Okay, so my hands are staying on the windowsill and I'm drawing my hips back towards the middle of the room. There's a tendency to want to, I'll do it for a second, but don't do this, to do that. Okay, so you don't want to push your chest down towards the floor. Instead, you want to lengthen back towards the middle of the room so that your legs are working. My thigh muscles are working to draw my hips back. And then when you come up, you just lift your head, walk back to the wall to come up. So come up the same way that you got in. So how do you know how far back your feet go, right? So it's hard to tell when you're not used to doing this. So if my feet are too close to the wall, like here they clearly are, right? You'll know right away when you start to draw your hips back, you can see, like I feel like I'm gonna fall backwards. So you would step your feet back a little more till you find that place where you feel like you can keep your hands connected to the counter and still pull your hips back and get that sense of lengthening. And that lengthening is gonna be through the sides of the rib cage, through the low back, and in the hamstrings. If you're back too far, I can't get my weight back over my heels. You see, I'm just leaning on the windowsill and I can't get out of that position. If your hamstrings are very tight, you will have a hard time creating that L shape, that right angle. So it's okay to come here. My hamstrings are tight. This is what would happen. I'd get pulled into a rounded position. Bend your knees to take tension off the hamstrings so that you can lengthen back. So now I still have that nice straight line from my hands to my hips. Okay. Another thing to think about with the hamstrings, or with anybody actually, don't have your feet together. Have them nice and wide, at least as wide as the hips, and maybe even toes turned in a little bit. That actually helps to make space across the lower back and the sacrum. Take a few breaths, lift your head, walk back to the windowsill, and then come on up. You can vary the height, like I said. So if this feels wonderful to you, you can try it on something a little lower. But again, don't go for aggressive deep stretch. These are things you can do to take pressure off your back when you're in pain. When you're not in pain anymore, this will be a great way to keep your back relaxed throughout your workday, especially if you sit a lot at your desk.